everyone. Good morning. Good morning. Thank you so much for joining us um, for our VIP Listen and Learn session this morning. We're so thankful to have you this morning. I know you guys probably could be doing a million other things, but we really appreciate that you have chosen to spend your time learning about how to find your customers. That's what we're talking about this morning. Um, so hopefully you have your learning materials, your notes, and your pens and papers, and all of those things ready to learn from our expert this morning. We have the director of the NSU Innovation Center, Akosua Acheamponmaa, Nwala, who is going to be sharing. She is um, an entrepreneur herself. She's helped to support universities like George Mason and ODU to establish their vision into tangible resources and platforms. She got her start at ODU, where she worked with different entrepreneurial programs to help them build their community and to build high growth, high impact businesses. She is the creator of a Startups Right Steps, an online course that helps entrepreneurs to avoid wasting money and resources by making the right moves. She's helped her clients save up to 5 figures in less than 30 days with training with her. She created a Startups Right Steps to help people turn their ideas and business models into solutions that customers will pay for repeatedly. So we're super excited. This is her. We were just talking. This is her wheelhouse. This is her thing. She always is about how to find your customer, how to validate your business model. So I hope you guys are prepared to learn. Akosi, we'll turn it over to you. Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you, Dr. Rhonda. Welcome, everyone. I'm so excited to be here. Like Dr. Rhonda said, this topic is very important to me, but really important to every entrepreneur. So let's get started. I put this background here because we have such a busy world, even though we may not see a lot of activity outside this period that we're in. There's a lot of activity virtually, and it gets so exhausting and noisy. Even if you've been in business for a while or you're starting up, you start to lose sight of who your customers are, or you just really don't even know how to reach them. So today's topic is going to help you see what is the principles, right? These are things that will never change. The principles behind who your customers are. So no matter what new platform comes or what new method comes for marketing and all that stuff, because they're going to keep coming. No matter what comes, once you follow what I'm sharing with you today, you will always be grounded. And you as a founder or as an entrepreneur will always know how to let other people know who your customers are. And again, I emphasize this because it's quite important for you as a founder to not lose the vision behind what you are. And that vision is so tied to your customers. All right, so the things that we're going to discuss today, I'm going to give it to you quick. It's a lot of content, but I've simplified it in a way where you'll be able to catch it. So today I have to talk about the difference between a startup and a company, because this difference in mindset will help you if you're at a startup stage or if you're at a place where you're actually building a company, because there's a difference there in how you handle things. And then I'll also talk about your value proposition. This is where you start to think what pains, what's the job that your customers need, and all of that. We'll go into that. And then the topic that everybody's waiting for is your customer segment. My customers, how do I get them to open up that wallet to purchase the things that I am selling? And then we'll also talk about how to discover them and actually get validation from them that they want you, they want what you're selling, and they are excited to be part of what you're doing. So let's get started. To get started, I want you to write this down, what a company actually is. Um, it's important to know that a business organization, it says that a company is a business organization which sells a product or service in exchange for revenue or profit. Okay. I don't want to kind of make you feel sad, but you're not a company yet until you're making revenue. And this will actually ease burdens, and it will ease a lot of pain for you to know that, okay, I start building a company, or I start building my entity once I am making revenue and once I am profitable, because the mechanics that I need to have in place then is very, very different from when I am a startup. So what is a startup? A startup is a temporary organization designed to search for a repeatable and scalable business model. Yes, that's what a startup is. So a startup, well, let's go through it. A startup is what? Temporary. So if you are at a startup stage, know that it's a temporary stage. You're still an organization, but you are set up or you are designed to search, search, search. So a lot of people maybe, well, we all go through this when we have a new idea or new product or service. It's seem like we're screaming all over the place or running in circles. Is because it's supposed to be that way. You're figuring out a repeatable and a scalable business model. A startup wants to come to a place where they know that I know my customers, I know the value that I am offering to them. And through these channels, through these activities, through these key partners, is how I keep getting sales of, or keep meeting my goals over and over again. And I can do the same thing, get the same results or more every month, right? So at a startup stage, you may do really well 1 month. Then the next month or the next following week, it's not working so much. It's because it's okay. You are at a place of searching, right? You're searching for a repeatable, write it down, a repeatable and a scalable business model. I hope this really helps. If it does, just leave something in the chat, because this definition has really helped me kind of ease my burdens and not compete with a company or an entity that is established, knowing that the activities that a startup does is very, very different. So you're like, Akosua, how does this connect with me knowing my customers? It's very important because it is all like I mentioned, what you're going to do at the beginning stage or as a startup, or even if you've been at it for a while and you haven't been generating revenue and you haven't been profitable, then knowing that you're still a startup and that there may be some missing gaps that will help you today to be able to move to that place where you say that you're building a company. So, number one, keep in mind a startup is temporary, temporary organization. It is designed to search. Um, so you're in a phase of searching, searching, and everything concerning what you're doing is searching. And it's also designed to search for a business model, repeatable and scalable. All right, let's move forward. So it used to be that we use that organization chart, and when you're starting a business, and we try to do like different things that will help you start. But this business model canvas is what mainstream and everyone is using. And it's not so much about the canvas, but it's the mindset behind this canvas that is making companies like Dropbox and Amazon, and you can really Google it and know that I'm not lying, that this mindset of um, embedding who your customers are and what you're doing to keep coming up with the right solution is what is behind modern organizations being successful. So, business model canvas, I've said it over and over again. These two parts with your customer segment and your value proposition provide something that we call problem solution fit, right? In our consulting services, one thing that we mention a lot are the 3 Ps, right? The 3 Ps are people, product, and profit. Okay, you need to get those things in place. So the people part being who your customers are, and the product that you're offering them has to fit. right? They have to want what you want. And last week in my last training, I mentioned that the number one reason why startups fail is because the people and the product don't fit. The people do not want what you are servicing. So today, we're going to go through these two things in detail and let you know how to arrive to your true potential customer segment. Number one, I want you to start with the value proposition. What is the value proposition? The value proposition, write it down, is the offer, the benefit behind your product or your service. What customers see as valuable, okay? It's not about your idea or your product. And I'm sorry to break this to you, but customers really are not buying a product. They're buying a solution, right? They're buying something, a job that they want you to get done. So, for example, one of the things that I think about is, say, a Mercedes Benz. Someone that wants to buy a Mercedes Benz is not buying the physical Mercedes Benz, right? They may not know what the seat is made out of. They may not know what engine type, all that detail, right? Which goes into building the product. So, what we're saying is that the value that Mercedes Benz is offering to their customers is the experience. Their customers are looking for a particular experience, and that's actually the value that they're buying. And so when we say that people are not buying your idea or your product, you need to kind of detach yourself from the particular idea you have and how you want to sell it and all of that, because it's about what, right here, what problem you are solving for your customer. It's also about solving a need, and it's also about satisfying a customer need. So you have to sit down and think initially, what is the problem that I'm actually solving with this business idea? What is the need, right? And what is the pain that I am addressing? This is what you have to know, that there's a pain that your customer is struggling with. So if you're a coach, it doesn't matter. There's a pain. They are struggling to get a particular job done that you are going to come in and help them with. If you're a software developer, that you want to come up with a software, there's a job that they go through every day that they've been walking out with that pain way before you even thought about the idea. That's what we want to arrive with, is that that pain is always going to be there. But what you're going to do is talk to them to figure out what, if that truly is the pain, and if your solution can actually ease in their burdens. Yeah. So it's also about who your customers are, what they actually seeking for, what do they have in mind. Getting into that mind is how you figure out the value that you're offering them. If you don't take anything out of it, know that its value proposition is figuring out what the problem, the pain, right? And the job that the customer wants to get done, that your solution is going to do that job for them. That's the value proposition. And the reason why the value proposition is important, again, is that, sorry to say it again, but customers don't care about the physical product or the physical technology, right? When the iPod first came out, it was 1,000 songs in your pocket. They were not selling the new device and the new shape of the iPod. They were selling the fact that, wow, you no longer have to have a bunch of CD player in your backpack. You have 1,000 songs in your pocket. That was the value proposition, and not necessarily the features of the iPod or the shape or how small it was. All of that has its place. But the true problem that it was solving was that you have 1,000 songs in your pocket, and you don't have to have 10 more CDs just to get 100 songs in your backpack or your whatever the carrier was for CDs. See, now we even forget. All right, so they are trying to solve a problem. Remember that? And there's a job they need to get done. That's what your customers care about. So think about it right now. Do you know the job that your customers want to get done? And do you know the problem that they want to solve? All right. So what are they trying to do? This is goes back to the job. And these are some examples that I wanted to kind of highlight. So when you're thinking about the pain or the problem that you're solving, it's, for example, a customer may be thinking, I want to connect and communicate with others around the world. That's what they're thinking about. They're not thinking about the technology that is going to come in, right? Whether it be a smart, embedded in a smart TV or fridge, or we don't really care about that. And that's not really what's on our mind. We want to figure out, how do I connect and communicate with people around the world effectively? So that would be a value of a company that is offering some type of solution like Facebook. So another example is find limitless flow of music that fits their mood. So a customer may be looking for, how do I find a limitless flow of music? And I made these things up, but a company that I think about is Spotify. That no matter what your mood is, you go on Spotify and they have that thing breaking down, and you don't really have to think about, oh, what song will work for me right now. Just based on your mood, you will be able to find a limitless flow of music. All right, and then another example is, I want to be able to watch movies and shows at any time, anywhere, right? What company? So, my question to you guys, what company do you think of right now that this is the job that they're doing for their customers? Yeah, that's it, Melissa. It is Netflix. Netflix is the company. That is the job Netflix is doing. We never really cared if it was going to be embedded through smart TV or cell phone, you know? So the concept I'm trying to get you to go away from is the product, the physical product that we all think about, the idea. What Netflix did was deliver this solution in a way that worked very well for us. Now, the next thing is figure out the best software to buy for accounting. So, someone that is looking for a good accounting software, so a company like QuickBooks needs to figure out why a customer will go with them instead of another software or accounting company. What is the value that QuickBook offers versus other softwares that are doing the same thing? So this is the thing that QuickBooks will have to think about. QuickBooks is not necessarily worried about, should not be worried about the software. They should be worried about how they are different, right? What pains that they're solving through the software that their competitors are not doing. So, with all of that being said, you see how knowing the pain and knowing the problem, knowing that will help you think about your true customers and how they look like. So the second circle that I had circled on the business model canvas was the customer segment. So number two, there's something called customer segment, which is groupings of customers in different bunches, because you have to group different customers. And I'll show you an example later in how that works so you can understand that easier. But customer segments, let's look at it. Your customers do not exist to buy, you exist for them. Okay. One thing that I think entrepreneurs, we can make the mistake of thinking is we waiting on the customers, or like what is it? The concept where it's like if you build it, they will come. It's like you're waiting for them to come, and you're just thinking they should want it. They should want it, and you were putting so much weight on the customers. No, our mindset should be, I exist for them. I, you, and I need to figure out what they want, okay, and who they are. They're not gonna come tell you unless you go to them. All right. So you exist for the customers and not the other way around. So we're no longer waiting around for our customers. The mindset is to figure out who they are and approach them. A lot of times you're not approaching them because you've made a lot of assumptions. And we'll talk about that in a bit. But one, the things that you can figure out about your customers are, who are they? Why would they buy it? Like what, where do they live? Like what locations, regions, states, and what are their personas like? Personas can include a lot of things, right? Like, do they have their masters? What income are they making? What type of location do they live in? You need to really get into the depth, or have the mindset of getting into the depth of really knowing your customers. And then there's a new phrase that I'll introduce is your customer archetype. So let's look at this customer segment. A customer segment, I told you, are what? Groupings of different customers. So professional art supply business customers. So this company or the startup is saying that my customers will be grouped as artists, tourists, people that have retired, students, and teachers. And under these artists and tourists and all of that are things that I am saying. So, for example, their age, right? What do they want? Or and what do they need? They want high quality products, experienced staff to guide product purchase, access to non-standing product, fast assets. So here he is, what kind of like listing some of the value proposition, some of the things that they're looking for. And he used age as one of the identifiers for all his customer segments. So that's an example. You see that every customer segment looks different. And because every customer segment looks different, your business model is for every customer is going to be different. So today we want to kind of stick to, yes, knowing who these our customers are, for who our customer segments are, but we want to kind of figure out what who are, one, the early adopters, and two, how do we just kind of stay there and validate the business model before moving on. I hope that makes sense. So the business model canvas that I showed you has 9 components. Every customer segment will need a whole business model canvas, because the way you will have the key partners you will have for artists will be different for the key partners you will have for students, right? So the marketing that you will do for artists will be different from the way you would do for students. So every customer segment gets its own business model and business model canvas. So that's a concept to write down as well. All right. So say you have one customer segment that you want to identify, like this one here. All you have to do is ask yourself some questions. Who are they? What do they do? When do they do it? Where do they do it? How do they do it? And what motivates them? And I went through that pretty fast, but I hope you guys got that. So those are the detailed questions that you will need to write down for one particular customer segment. And I would advise you to take it one segment at a time so that you can have one model for each your for one business model canvas for each of your customer segment. All right. Here, I wrote down that within every segment, there are multiple individuals. Okay. I think you guys are really going to like this part because it's something that we don't tend to think about. There are multiple individuals in the purchase decision, and they're called archetypes. Okay, so what are archetypes? So archetypes are plays a role in the decision making of your customers. So sometimes you may be thinking about a particular customer segment and you're just thinking of them in one way. And we'll do an example here. But within every decision, until your customer actually buys from you, there are folks that we call the end users. The end users are who will be using the solution, who is actually the end person that will be using that app, or if you have a restaurant, who is actually going to come and sit down and eat over and over again. That's the end users. Sometimes I call them the consumers, right? Consumers, because they actually consume the physical or solution or product that you're offering. And then within the decision, there's also influencers that you know that there are people that your customers actually listen to. Who are they? Right? There are people that your customers actually listen to. They're called influencers. And then recommenders. Recommenders. Who says when, where, and how to buy? Who is that? Who says when, where, and how to buy? The decision maker. Decision maker is who makes the ultimate buying decision. Okay? Who actually makes the ultimate buying decision? All right. And then the payer, who writes the check. Hmm. And the saboteur, who actually wants to kill the deal. There is always someone that wants to kill the deal. And it's good to figure out who that may be. All right. So I'm gonna need you guys to put stuff in the chat because we're gonna go through a quick example. All right. Yeah, J Sharp said Hulu. Yes, Hulu also fit that previous answer. Cool. End user. Let's use an example of this life that we're living in with the pandemic. One thing that millennials or anyone, parents, really, we have some parents on the line that have little kids have had to do is to either work from home and make sure the kid is going through school themselves, or actually get a babysitter. I've heard of people that have babysitters or like all 8 hours that the parents are working from 9 to 5 at home with the baby somewhere in the basement or something like that. So, with that example in mind, let's go through a babysitter that wants to offer a new solution to, let's say, a millennial couple or millennial parents. Who, get ready to write in the chat, who are the end users? Who will be using this babysitter's new solution? Okay, Lewis said parents. Can I get some more answers? If you agree with him, type parents too. Yes. Parents, baby. Yes, it's actually the baby, right? The child is the actual person that will be working with the babysitter. So the end user in this case is not the parents like we normally think, right? We're normally thinking, oh, the parents, we need to get to the parents. But the child actually plays a role, right? If they don't like you, we've all watched those movies where the kid sends the babysitters home quick. So the end user is the baby in this case. The baby will be the person working with the babysitter. All right, influencer. Who are they listening to? Okay, baby, now it's the parents. Who does the end user listen to? Other parents, people who use Sitter? Yes. The end user in this case would be the baby. Again, will be listening to the parents, right? The baby in this case is the end user, and is the end user that we're using to kind of go through this here, because they're the person that will initially be using the product. So in this case, when I was going through this training, they gave a perfect example of Taylor Swift concert, and the end user being teenage parents, teenage kids, and the influencer being all the peers that the kid listens to, right? So in this case, the baby will have to listen to the parents, right? The options that the parents come up with. Or they're also influenced by other kids and the type of babysitters that they have. So those would be the folks that the little kid, the end user, will be listening to. Now, who's the recommender? Who says when, where, and how to buy? You can be creative with this one. Who says when, where, and how to buy? The sitter or the sitting agents? Yep. hmm Anything else? So yes, we'll go with that one. The sitting agency that the babysitter is working from, or the sitter, or it could even, now here is where you think about who could potentially be talking to our end users between the parents and the kid. It could be radio, it could be teachers, right? It could be anyone that could position themselves to recommend, oh, I heard of this, but this is where you put in the other sitters where, oh, I heard about this person. You should you should reach out to this person. So the recommender position themselves to say when, where, and how to. All right. And decision maker. In this case, who makes the ultimate buying decision? Lewis said, could it be like end user and to end user? Yes, it can. That's like sometimes one of the best ways, end user to end user for the recommender. Um, let's move on to the next one. Decision maker. Who makes the ultimate buying decision in our new babysitter solution? Yes. Now it's the parents. In most houses, is it the mom or the dad? Yes, I agree. It's the mom. Okay. Then who actually writes the check? The payer. The dad, right? Yes, in most cases. And who would want to kill the deal? Who can you think about that will eventually, or at that point where the solution is being offered, would want to kill the deal? You guys got it. Yeah, it could actually be the real baby, right? It could be the end user, I agree. The child or maybe the parent who thinks it's too expensive. Yes, it could be siblings. That's true. Yeah, that's really good. And another thing, it could be a baby sitter competitor, right? Yes, say grandparents wanted to watch them for some reason. So it's good for you to kind of go through all of this because there's a whole buying decision going through why someone that you think should be buying may never get to you because you have to think about these. All right, let's move on. So it's important for you to remember that startups are in search mood. Okay, if you don't take anything away, you startup in search mood, trying to figure out the value they're offering to their customers, trying to figure out who their customers are and what pains they are in. Okay, and so with that being said, even though we have gone through this exercise, it's also important to keep in mind that you only guess your way through customer segments. Most of the things that we said, we feel may be true, right? We don't know about the grandparents, but we can write it down, right? And that's what happens in our business plans is we assume a lot of things that needs to be validated. Okay. So we need to change guessing into facts. Yeah. So that's what this is about is once we have now listed who our customers are and their personas and all of that, we need to actually make sure that is true, that we can validate it. And that is when you go through this process that came out by Steve Blank. Steve Blank, you can look him up, the customer development process. Okay. This is the process that you go through. You go through customer discovery, customer validation, then you can actually start creating customers that are buying. Now, once you have evidence that the customers are buying, then you can actually build a company, okay, that is making profit and revenue. And I hope that makes sense. So if you haven't been making profit and revenue, you're probably still at this stage, okay? Um, Figuring out what will a repeatable way that will work for you to create customers over and over again. So you're in a search mood. So startups are in a search mood. All right. Now let's see why customer discovery. Going back here, customer discovery is the first phase of the customer development process. You go through customer discovery now that you've listed who your customers are to invalidate, okay? And what does that mean? You want to actually prove that what we have said is false. Because if you go in trying to prove that it's true, you'll be biased, right? But you want to work so hard to prove that no, the grandparents are not going to kill the deal. It may just be the kid. You want to prove whatever it takes for you to know who your customers are and who is ultimately going to buy. And you want to prove that is false because if you prove that it's false, you will find the truth. All right, obtain the right people. Obtain the right problem and the right solution. That's why we go through customer discovery. We also want to identify a low fidelity prototype. Now I'm throwing some terms here. Low fidelity prototype is really like your solution on not a finished format, but on a napkin paper, right? Or in a slide deck like this. Low fidelity prototype is the minimum features as low as you can get. If you have a hardware solution, it may be a 3D printed shape or prototype of what the real thing is going to be. That's a low fidelity prototype. Customer discovery helps us get there to build the right solution for our customers because they will tell us what they want. And then the minimum viable product is the MVP, which is the minimum amount of features to get you started. I always tell people that if Facebook threw at us what Facebook is right now, when you first got on, you would be like, what is going on? But they had a big dream, but they released it feature by feature when it's tested and experimented. Facebook uses the same process that I am teaching you here that you will continue to learn about, I believe, once you leave here, to actually keep giving you the solutions that we all like so much, to the point where they purchase the Instagrams and the WhatsApps of our world. So what Facebook does is say they wanted to release that event calendar page that they did where people can say they're attending, they're not attending. They will actually identify the group, the early adopters that would want to use it, and actually select entrepreneurs or people that will be having events all the time, and allow them only to be the ones that use it until they open it up to everyone. So they use this concept over and over again, like you will be doing once you know your customers. You'll be working along with them to build the right solutions for them. And then the last thing here is figure out the risk. Doing customer discovery, you'll be able to know, is this market actually too small for me, right? Or are there too few customers that actually want the value that you're offering? And sometimes you may even figure out, can you actually reach these customers yourself? It may be an ideal solution, but you may not be in position as of right now or at all to be able to reach those customers. And through customer discovery, you will figure that out. And also, you could also figure out, can you acquire or retain those customer segments? Because it is by retaining them is how you can finally have a scalable or repeatable business model that you can say that, yes, we're not a startup anymore, we're building a company. So through customer discovery, you'll be able to figure that out. Real quick, the phases of actually going by testing. So now that you know your customers, you know the value that you're offering them, how do you actually test? Because have kept saying test, experiment, test. These are the phases. You come up with a hypothesis or guess or the assumptions that you've already written down in your business model canvas about your customers, right? So, for example, we believe millennial parents prefer working from home with their kids so long as they have an affordable babysitter in person. That's our hypothesis, right? With our example that we went through. However, we need to figure out if our customers are actually millennials or not. Or is it just single parents that would actually want a babysitter? Maybe if they're a couple, they may not mind. So you need to figure that out, right? If for our new babysitter solution. And then our babysitter is going to have to experiment with these different tools here. And at the Innovation Center, we have lots of different tools that we can show you that you can use to reach out to these customers that you have assumed. And it can be through interviews, it can be through this survey. It can be through a day in a life, right? Which is like you spend a day in the life of your customer, figuring out what they actually want and stuff. And then it could be through landing page, email, search trends, lots of experiments. The experiment is the easy part, even because those things are fixed. There's a way of doing those things that you cannot change them. What is not easy is forcing yourself to actually sit down to come up with what those assumptions are and accepting the fact that they are assumptions. As much as you want to work with millennial parents, you may just have to be working with a single parent. So this is the, a lot of internal things that we go through as entrepreneurs, kind of submitting your idea and your product to exactly what the customers actually want. All right. And then the third thing is learn. Once you have done the survey and the interview, you sit down and you analyze the evidence they gave you to gain insight. Insight is what we're looking for, because insight is what will get us to building that company and scaling The more insight we have that are facts and truth, the more we can have a scalable way of building our company. Fourth thing is decide. Okay. So then you need to come to a place where you need to, I always say this, persevere, pivot, or kill. Persevere is, oh yeah, I'm on the right track. Maybe I could do one more experiment, right? You're persevering to really make sure. Maybe I can add in a landing page to really make sure. Or pivot is like, who I was so wrong. It is definitely not millennial parents. So, and then let's move on to the next customer segment, which will be single parents. And now you go back to this whole process again, right? And, or you could just be like, this idea really sucked, or I'm actually not willing to go through and give my heart and soul to building a business around this problem. You can figure that out too before you waste a lot of money. All right. And so that is what I have so much. And I hope this page here kind of summarize the phases that you will go through once you've gone through that business model canvas. You know your value proposition, you know your customers. You come here and you're like, okay, let me put it. You started the same sentence that I did. We believe, I believe, right? Da 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 da. And I want to experiment and test. I want to learn and decide what I want to do. All right. So that is what I have for today. I see that there's some stuff in the chat. Did I miss something, Tiffany?
No, I posted the links and information, contact information for the center. The first post was the link to our survey. So following the, barring anybody that has any questions, following the presentation, we would appreciate it if everybody clicked on that link and took our post-event survey. And then I also posted our social media handle, our website address, our email address, and our YouTube channel name. The question, when will this be posted on YouTube? This will be posted by close of business on Friday. So expect to see it around or before 5 p.m. On Friday on our YouTube channel.
Awesome. So we'll take questions now. If you guys have any questions. Thanks, Louis. I'm glad you thought this was great information.
I have a question for you, Akosua.
Go ahead.
In terms of some of the major mistakes people make in customer discovery and in validating their models and in identifying or looking for their customers, what are some of the major mistakes people tend to make, or what do they often overlook? Like, what are some of the pitfalls?
Cool. I think one of the not I think one of the major mistake is like being so attached to the product. That's why I kind of emphasizing it. Being so attached to the solution that you have in mind and how you want to build it for the customers, and how you want to just go ahead and build it for the customers without including them, and you want them to buy it. So that's what I would say, Dr. Manda, because it takes a mindset shift too. So one of the mistakes you would make is not continuing for this to sink in, right? It's a mindset shift where it's no longer about you, but depending on those customers to give you the right answer and being okay with that, you know? Um, so that's what I would say is the major thing. Because if you're not, you will never go through this again. Or you will find the concept very intriguing, is what we found, right? But people fail to actually submit to the customer and going along with what the customers are saying. Did that answer the question?
Yes, yes, it did. Thank you.
Cool. So what did you guys think of this concept? I really would love feedbacks and
I actually have a question. Are there any online resources or programs that people can use to research information regarding their target audiences?
explain research. So like a market report.
So yeah, so um are there any like actual programs, not a program, you know, that you would go to in person, but are there any software programs that people can use to do research on their different customer segments or specific types of customers? So research as in find out what the behaviors are, some of their psychological behaviors, some of their physical behaviors, income, geography, things like that.
Well, I don't know about specific software that will allow you to do that, but most of the information about your customers and how where the market is, like an IBIS report that does really well, like a report from IBIS World gets a lot of insight about the outlook and all of that. But I don't know, Dr. Rhonda, do you know of any resource like that goes in the psych and behavior of specific customer segments?
No, I think I agree with you about Ibis World being a really good resource for that. Um, in terms of customer behavior, I'm not sure. There's probably some resources and some business databases and resources, but I'm not sure of anything specifically. I do know that some of the learning you can do on your own about your specific type of customer through, questionnaires and interviews and things of that nature. But looking at specific markets as a whole and the behavior of those markets as a whole, I think this is probably the best kind of one-stop place for that kind of information. Lewis says Statista.com is okay. You get free views, and then they want you to pay for it. So,
Yeah, I was going to respond to that, to Lewis. I've actually, I had a Statista.com, I had a profile or a subscription for a year. It is expensive, at least, from my point of view, it is expensive. In order to, I would say if you're going to use Statista.com, there are a lot of free, you can get more than three free views, depending on the information that you're looking for. You're not going to get an entire dossier for free, but what I've learned to do is look up, so type in your keyword or your search word, and then I start from the dossiers and I click on the dossier, and some of the pieces of the dossier you will be able to view for free. And now you won't be able to print it out if you don't have a subscription or anything like that. And so, yep, I do the same thing, Liz. I end up taking screenshots and I just print my screenshots out. But you can definitely get more than three views. And then if you sign up, there is a free subscription that you can use that'll give you limited access to some of the information on there. But yeah, I would definitely I would suggest, if you go on there, start with dossiers and kind of go through and click on the various links that interest you, and see if you can just take a screenshot of the information. But yeah, it is expensive. I know they have a sale currently for like $39 a month, but yeah, that's definitely a good one. And then the only other thing is Google Trends.
Yes.
Yeah, Google Trends has helped me a lot. And then the insights that you have on your social media and stuff like that.
Thank you.
Thank
I
you.
just want to reiterate before we wrap up because we have like just a couple minutes left. Please, please, please click the survey link. Tiffany, would you drop that back in the chat for us so that we can have that? And I apologize for not mentioning that at the outset of the seminar. Would you please just take 2 minutes and go to the survey and rate today's presentation. Of course, the survey helps us to bring you better, more useful, more helpful content. So we really, really need your feedback, and we need to know what you thought, and if you have suggestions for topics and or speakers that you want to see in the future. That's a really great place to make those suggestions. So I'm begging you, please, 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 please go and do that survey for us. I promise it won't take longer than a minute or two. I don't even think it's 10 questions. It's just really, really quick. If you would do that for us, we would really, really, really appreciate it. And also, if you're not following us on social, please do. We're always sending out information about what the center is up to, and we will be increasing our presence on social media as well. So thank you all for showing up and for participating. Hopefully you found this helpful. And if you did, we want to know. If you didn't, we want to know via our survey. But thank you, everybody. Thank you to Akosua and to Tiffany as well. But I just wanted to make sure that we got a chance to mention the survey because that's really, really important to us. So that's all for me.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. We'll see you next time.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good afternoon.